not good. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to get started on tearing the front end of the first gen apart. I have been neglecting getting started on these projects for a little bit because the truck's been running and driving, and I really haven't been motivated to tear it all back apart. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it. It's already getting dark, so I don't know how far I'll get, but I'll go ahead and show you guys some of the things that I need to get done this week. I need to get these old shock towers cut off of the frame. They're absolutely disgusting and not done very well. This one looks okay, but just wait a second. Not the best light over here. This one is absolutely ridiculous. I honestly can't believe I've even been driving around on the road like this. There's a ton of play in the top of this shock. The shocks in the front of the truck are absolutely blown out, and this is horrendous. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with those, get those cut off the truck, and then I have shock hoops from Trail Gear that we're gonna go ahead and throw on there. I'll probably have to do some trimming in the wheel well, but that's expected. Additionally to getting shock hoops on the truck, I want to clean up the frame rail and reinforce it in a few spots. And then moving over to the driver's side, we're going to be installing an IFS steering box. After the IFS steering box, I have a decent amount of other stuff to get done under here. I want to get this axle cleaned up, painted, get high steer on. I do have a U-bolt flip kit as well as a couple other things to do. But before we get to any of that stuff, the coolest thing in the world, not next week, but the following, on the 14th of September is my 30th birthday. And I have the absolute best fiance in the world because she bought me a Harley. I said it a few videos ago that we were going to be building the chopper, and I don't really know how much building I need to do on this thing. This thing is absolutely beautiful, and I don't really need to do anything to it, but you can look forward to me working on this thing in some videos, and I don't know how soon I'll be working on it, but you can at least look forward to us riding it around here and there. All right, it is starting to get dark, so I'm going to go ahead and get the truck up on jack stands. The goal for tonight is to just get the front end pulled apart a bit. I want to get the wheels and tires off, pull shocks off, and then ideally I'm going to go ahead and get the shock towers cut off. That way I'll be able to start cleaning up the frame rails. That will give me a great starting point tomorrow so I can get the shock hoops welded on, find a nice placement for those, do some reinforcing, and then we can move on to some more stuff. Well, good thing I started taking the shocks off because that's the shock tower bolt, and she snapped right in half. All right, I've been messing around with the passenger side shock hoop for quite a while at this point, and I think I got it to a place that I'm pretty happy with. What I was just doing was getting the shock mount up here on the hoop, and when I hung the shock to test fit everything, basically the top was rubbing a little bit right here, so went ahead, took the angle grinder, beveled that out a bit, and now we got a nice, I don't know, quarter-inch, half-inch gap up there, and ideally the top of the shock doesn't move a whole lot, so we're looking good up top. I think I got the angles where I want it. Just a quick run through. The front of the hoop is about an inch longer than the rear, which gives me a little bit of a tilt towards the back of the truck. It's roughly 7 degrees, and then it's obviously tilted outward. Shock mount is on the inside of the hoop, so a little bit of a better view is in here. Played with shock placement a whole lot and ended up coming up with this. I did make a couple frame plates, so I didn't weld straight to the frame, and I have everything tacked in place and I'm happy with it. I'm not gonna weld everything in just yet, because there's really no benefit of burning this side in and not having the driver's side done. With that being said, the driver's side is going to be quite a bit of a headache because I'm working underneath power steering, brake booster, have all of this mess over here on the inner fender. But once I get all this stuff cut and out of the way, I think we'll be in a little bit of a better working space, and I'll be able to get that other shock hoop in there. Hard part is going to be I need to match all of these angles as closely as possible over here. So I am gonna start moving towards the driver's side. I really haven't done a whole lot over there yet. I still need to cut the old shock tower off. Lots to do. All right, we got the driver's side tacked on. I wish I could show you guys, but I'm using my digital level on my phone. This hoop I had initially cut, as you can see, to use for the rear of the truck and ended up going a different route. So I slapped this thing back together. Needless to say, it is not identical to the other side. Basically, the shape of the U is just a little bit different than the other side. So my measurements are as close as I can possibly get them. It is 14 degrees tilted outwards towards me, and then about 7 degrees tilted towards the back of the truck. Pretty happy with that. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this thing off of the frame, weld the frame plates in all the way, and then weld the mounts to the shock hoop. I do need to trim these down a little bit. You can see my line where these need to be cut. Shock towers are officially welded on the truck. I did go ahead and paint the top half of the shock towers just so I didn't have to worry about overspray and trying to get in here with a paintbrush. So the top half is painted, frame side is still not, and then these are just hanging in here with a bolt. I can't even tell you how many times I took them off of the frame, put them back on, took them back out, put them back on, measured 1 trillion times. So I'm pretty happy with where they turned out. So now that those are done, I can finish getting the frame rail cleaned up. I did run into a couple issues when I was doing the driver's side. Ow. I realized that all of the ugly brackets and welds that were over here were for a reason. I'm assuming at one point or another, the factory shock tower ripped off of the frame rail. Whoever had this truck before me did their best to patch all of this stuff in. So there's a couple different layers of stuff here in the frame rail. I have a ton more work to do. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the axle out, get that thing cleaned up, get all of those old brackets that aren't gonna get used anymore chopped off, get the axle cleaned up, painted, U-bolt flip kit, throw everything back in there. From there, I'll be able to start playing with steering, getting the high steer swapped over, getting the IFS box on there. I've never done any of this stuff, so a lot of it's kind of overwhelming, but I am just trying to take my time and figure it out the best I can. And so far, I think it's going pretty well. I'm currently pulling the steering apart, and I had to stop just to show you guys this. Not good. Now I gotta buy more stuff. I I started to disassemble steering last night. We ran into a couple issues. All of the steering was seized. I ended up breaking my ball joint separator trying to get the tie rod off. I got it off, but broke the tool in the process, and then could not for the life of me get any of this steering linkage to come undone. So I just went ahead and cut it in half. I don't plan on reusing this, and I really don't see any value in keeping it around. So the only thing I have left to remove now is the U-bolts. I got the drive shaft off, got the little anti-wrap link or whatever you want to call that off. Based off of taking the U-bolts off of the rear end, these are definitely going to be seized, so I'll probably just chop these off with the angle grinder. I do have a U-bolt flip kit, so I have all brand new hardware for this. Not too worried about cutting those. No point in reusing them. So got to get these under the axle, chop these U-bolts off. Axle should drop right down here. We'll pull it out and get to cutting. This bracket's got to go. This bracket's got to go. Got to cut the shock mounts off. Not exactly sure what that is. Not exactly sure what that is, but I know that I don't need them. So gonna cut all that stuff off and make this axle look a little bit better. It has been multiple days of angle grinding, trying to get this axle cleaned up so I can get the truss welded on, get it back under the truck so we can move on to some other stuff. I want to get the IFS box in there still. I'm hoping today is the day that I can finish grinding. It's been like 100 degrees every single day. I have been kind of working at this thing a couple hours here and there after work and getting absolutely covered in metal dust. I still have a ton of work to do. I need to get back to it and get this thing finished up so I can stop angle grinding. It's a new day. It's finally the weekend. I got the truss welded on yesterday. As far as the axle housing goes, the last thing that I need to do is get shock mounts on there, and I am going to reuse the old ones because I didn't order any new ones and I just want to get it done. So to do that, I need to push everything back onto the truck and kind of roughly mount it all back onto the springs. Made a little progress. At the moment, I got the U-bolt flip kit on. This U-bolt in particular was kind of a pain in the ass to get on there, so I had to kind of manipulate this one a little bit, kind of bend it and then bend the top of it in, and that's just because it lines up a little weird on the axle, but those are in there, so the pinion angle and all that stuff is nice and tight when I lined up my shock tabs. These ones are burned in. I just made these out of some steel that I had laying around. I cleaned up the old ones and I just decided not to use them. They're just gross and tiny, so those are junk. I gotta move over to the driver's side, get those ones welded on, and then we can pull this axle out and get to painting. finally feel like I'm making some progress on the front end. As of right now, I am going to start finishing up the frame rails. I did just kind of look over everything and I realized I missed a weld under here. The driver's side doesn't have this bump stop plate anymore, and I think because the driver's side doesn't have this, I'm gonna go ahead and chop this one off. That way I can do both of them the same whenever I get to doing bump stops. So got to cut this off. I have to cut this little track bar mount, whatever you want to call that, on the frame over there. I got to cut that off and get that out of the way. And then once those are cut off, I can start working on the IFS box. I am going to start by getting the old one out. I need to basically disconnect all of the steering linkage, get this disconnected off of this little spline shaft, unbolt the whole box, get the box and the bracket off of the frame. I'll probably cut the inner fender a little bit more just for easier access. As soon as I get the IFS box in here, then we'll really start rolling and I'll be able to kind of finalize all this stuff, get it all painted, and start getting steering and everything figured out. But yeah, it's a lot of work, so I'm gonna get back to it.